Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impact. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today we have Jay Smith, the founder of 10X Velocity, an AI automation consultancy helping overloaded teams reclaim time and focus and refocus on their high-impact work. With a background that spans Army service, cybersecurity, Fortune 500 logistics, and even time as a private investigator, Jay brings system thinking to every lens in every organization he touches. He's helped nonprofits, legal teams cut 30 hours of manual work per month without adding headcount by turning tribal knowledge into scalable, automated workflows that unlock creativity, freedom, and innovation. Jay isn't just about automation. He's about purpose-driven automation, using AI to elevate people, not replace them. Whether he's partnering with school districts like Jefferson County's public schools to empower students with AI, entrepreneurship, or helping CEOs escape the chaos of task overload, Jay is on a mission to help leaders stop drowning in busy work and start architecting the future of the future for the teams they deserve. With that, welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Drew.
Yeah, man. You have such an interesting background. I love that we met through Joseph Lewin. Joseph's a great friend of mine. So would you say that you're a technologist or a futurist?
Oh man, that's really tough because something I say to people a lot is computers are a mistake. And they look at me like I'm insane. And honestly, I'm like, it's the most powerful tool I can wield to affect change the future and the present. So it's what I use. But I'm way more interested in humanity, to be honest.
I love that. Actually, I think that's maybe that's something that we really connect super well on. Because my argument about innovation is when we do the things that we've been doing for a million years, we just do them more efficiently. So it used to be that we would stick kernels of wheat in the ground by hand. And then we were like, oh, we could use a stick. And then we're like, hey, we could put a metal blade on this stick. And then we're like, hey, we could have a horse carry this metal blade on this stick. Yeah, that's my gold standard of whether innovation is useful or not, is have we been doing it for a million years? And if not, I don't really think it's worth doing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So education wise, how did you get into technology?
Oh man. Although I am solid Gen X, I'm 52 here in a few months. I was fortunate enough to spend my younger years in California, in Southern California and San Diego area. And we had computers in the classroom very, very early for that time period. So I grew up, I grew up with a Commodore 64 and a Mac II, and always had my hands on it and learned BASIC in, I think, 4th grade. Not that I was in a solid computer curriculum or anything, but we had computers and we were always on them and touching them. I graduated in 1991 up in Washington State, and I was in classes where we used computers, we used graphic programs. So I was fortunate to have grown up in that area and in that time.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that in the pre-show prep here, we were talking about, you have a long history in AI as well. So I got into AI, I think 2 years ago. I was doing some mission simulation work for the government, and I was doing a whole lot of transposing of tribal knowledge, really, of this is how this unit person does this, and how do I put that into a computer? And I was scratching on these ideas, and then I discovered ChatGPT, and it could do in 15 seconds what I was taking me like a week to do. And I was like, oh, this is more important than fire, because the productivity bump it's not an Excel sheet productivity bump. It's like, I mean, exponential is not even the right word. But you've been into AI for a lot longer than that. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so this will go all over the place, really. But so one of my little side quests while I was still in corporate in logistics was as a private investigator in Kentucky. Because I had become a self-taught web developer, and then just by happen chance dove down the cybersecurity rabbit hole and got certified as a digital forensic analyst, which is basically somebody who finds things in computers that you think are deleted.
You were the guy in the chair in like all the cool spy movies.
Kinda, although I don't type near as fast as they do, and it's I. It sounds so cool. Like when I was in the army, I was in construction demolitions. So I worked in rock quarries. We blew up hillsides. It sounds really cool. It's boring. Like
But the work itself is boring.
right, and people are like, oh man, I'd really love to see what you do when you do this forensic, the stuff on the computer. It's like, no, you
No, you wouldn't.
wouldn't. Like you would rather watch a car mechanic because that's way more interesting. Um, but yeah, so in being the computer guy in our private investigation firm, that I focus more on social media investigations, finding hidden bank accounts, and doing a lot of facial recognition to find hidden social media profiles and using tools. AWS was very early with facial recognition and object recognition tools, and then they started coming out with some voice recognition too. It wasn't mature enough to really use, and honestly, unless you're government right now, it's probably still not.
Right.
It's good-ish, but I wouldn't take it to court.
Yeah. So that's efficiency, right? So you've been using those tools to leverage your efficiency for over almost a decade here.
Mhm.
So all right, so here I am. I'm a business owner, and I know that life is what it is. I've just kind of accepted, all the presuppositions that we have about life. When I look at AI, and I've decided it's not going to be the evil overlord. I think it's something that I should use. Um, Give me like, how should I look at that differently than you most of your clients show up? Like, give me a better perspective on how to see AI as opposed to all the hype that you see. It's going to solve everything and it's going to take over the world, but it's just a tool. So give me a better perspective to think about AI.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's different for everybody, but it kind of all boils down to AI is not an A for B replacement, and that's what I see a lot of our brains really try to do is keyhole it somewhere where it's like, okay, this is what this is. This replaces this for me. That's not really the way to approach it. The way to approach it is, what am I doing? What am I spending my capacity on that this could remove for me to allow me to unlock my creative potential and do more of what matters to my business, my nonprofit, my school, whatever. It's an enhancer, it's an augmenter. It is not a replacement for you or a process. Like you can't wholesale replace very many processes with AI or automation. You can get close, you can get a lot of it, especially if you're doing very paperwork heavy. Accounts payable
Hmm.
is a good example.
Hmm. So yeah, actually, I like this. When After my initial introduction to AI, when I saw, oh my goodness, it can encode data at an alarmingly fast rate. Because remember, I had just been reading all these tactics and procedures, and I had been manually transcribing them into a format.
Mm.
And then I grabbed ChatGPT of 2001, and I used it, and it because I had the answer in the format that I wanted it in, I was able to see how fast. And I was like, holy crap, this did actually a better job than I did, and it did it so fast. However, it's like an employee. When you hire a new grad out of college, they are very capable, but I have to train them. I have to be
Yeah.
very clear in my mind as to what I want in the process that I want them to follow. So, yeah, I love that AI is a tool, and it's not to replace; it's to augment. Um,
Yeah.
my theory on innovation is we shouldn't try to get the same amount of work done for less energy and then just like live off the fat. We should take the same amount of energy and get way more done, right? Because that's what moves us forward in life.
Yeah.
What's your take on the best way to use a tool like this?
Regardless of the specific use case, in my opinion, and this varies by who I'm working with and their willingness to kind of jump into here, but in the way I feel about it, in a true innovation, true insights, whether it's on a task, whether it's on your entire job or your entire business, that will not come through doing the actual day-to-day work. That comes when you give yourself space and breathing room to
Mm,
let your creative human brain, which is nowhere
yes.
close to being replaced, regardless of what the hype monster says, to let it just stop. Like I went to a mental health workshop that was put on by two amazing people here in Louisville. They were just getting started up for organizational mental health, and they ran us through an exercise of just a 10-minute reset. That's it, between meetings. And it was so just, we don't even understand how we're rushing from one email to one meeting to this to that to this to the, oh, now I've got to do all these reports. We don't take time to just decompress and be, and let our biology take over and find those insights through the day and put them together. And that's how we innovate. That's how we create new things. And I think that's the ultimate state for me, when we find a process we can remove hours and hours of work. And for the ultimate, that means, hey, your team could be working 4 days a week for the same pay and you'll make more money. And
Yes.
they won't leave.
Yes, I say this all the time. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to most things nerdy, but especially to Marvel superheroes. I love Marvel. I loved it before it was cool, right? So like I actually old school Marvel guy.
Me
And
too.
and you have Captain America and you have Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is like this is the puny weakling asthmatic little wimp that gets his super serum and becomes Captain America. And I always say that, you know, the lean manufacturing and the process optimization and the lean and the Six Sigma stuff that we've talked about for the last 30 years, everybody gets very excited about that because it takes your current top line revenue and it gets you a little bit better profit. Everybody's like, oh, look at this, look at this. That's like Steve Rogers. That's like the weak asthmatic. We've trimmed all of the fat and all of the muscle and all of the strength out of the system, and we are efficient. But because we're so efficient, we're entirely incapable of being effective when it comes to a slightly new situation. Let's just say that one machine in your factory, let's just say a conveyor belt, not even a machine, just like a little conveyor belt goes bad in your factory. The whole factory is now completely waylaid because you were efficient, but you're not. You need that extra capacity to be effective. And then so now that's Steve Rogers, right? And then you have Captain America, and that guy can like jump and do a triple somersault while fighting you in the middle of a battle and throwing his shield. He has so much extra capacity, you could never use all of it, but as a result, he's a superhero.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So you and I are both innovation fans, and we both love the innovator's dilemma. Talk to me about the dangers of using AI to replace people.
Oh man, there's many. Um, it's the way I see it, and this is a broad stroke. It's different for every organization. Some of them absolutely have teams that have just been built up over time due to bad habits and not taking on the bull. But when it comes to innovating out human capital, like the what you're doing is you're doing what you were just talking about, which is the efficiency trap. And the efficiency funnel only continues to do this, and you can't do this infinitely. Eventually you're going to reach a point, and now the only innovation you have at the bottom of that point is price. All you can compete on with your competitors is price. You're not innovating, you're not providing superior products, you're not providing superior customer service. All you're doing is saying, oh, well, we're the same as them, but we're cheaper. And that funnel also goes like this until you're at zero or just losing money. So plus it's just pure evil, honestly. If we're going to build our entire society around work and spend 60% of our day doing it and consumerism, how are you going to rip that away from people and consider yourself a valid member of society?
Yeah, no, I need to find a sound effect of the old church lady that's like, yes, amen.
My partner gets mad at me because at one of these workshops I do, I will have a choir behind me because I go all over the stage and I get fired up about stuff like this.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, this is actually it stabs at Peter Drucker wrote a fantastic book called Management. It's just like a tome, and in Management he says no company, it's not the company's job to make a society healthy. That's another sphere's job. But no company can succeed in an unhealthy society. And then the kind of unspoken third piece of that idea is that the way we treat our employees and what we build into our employees determines the society that we live in. If we honor and we respect people that take good risks, and if we support people that are growing, and if we give people a good wage and we encourage them, then we all live in a richer society. But if we neck it down so that a couple of people, the stockholders, have a good return, I think you kind of peeled the Band-Aid back there. You said evil.
It is.
Yeah. So how can we use AI? Here I am. I believe in AI. I have a company, and I have a Chat GPT subscription. What else should I do with AI? Do I just need to grab the off the shelf solutions, or how's the best way to use AI to build my society and company?
I think before just jumping in and using it, you need to be intentional. Um, you need to involve your entire team. The entire team needs to be a part of it. You can't leave off, especially those employees who've been there a long time and like, you know, whether it's their flavor or the way they've been indoctrinated into that culture, they're just not going to change. They do this. This is their lane. You've
Mhm.
got to get everybody. It's a team effort because eventually they're going to feel left behind. Because people that are using it are going to innovate so much faster and move ahead of them.
What
Um,
I love that is that you start with the premise that the team is valuable. Like everybody on your team is valuable to begin with.
oh,
And I think, man, I've never, as I think about this question, that is an underline. I think that a lot of people have teams where that a lot of them, they're like, I'd really rather not have this person on my team, but I mean, who else is going to drop the fries? Um,
jeez, I guess.
I
Yes.
think there's an underlying, especially I used to be in corporate for a long time. There's kind of a known and corporate management, right? So, uh, there's kind of two stacks of employees. There's the risers. There's the folks that are just solid and they're like into family, and that's cool. And then there's the folks that drop fries.
Sure.
Um, and what you're implying there is you got to start off assuming that everybody on your team is doing something useful, which is, I mean, we don't have to pull that thread, but that's a really profound presumption that you shouldn't have sandbaggers on your team to begin with. I think it's great. Okay, back over
Yeah.
to you. So you get the team involved. All right, take it from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So ideally, if you're going to be intentional about this and take the time, you workshop and you show everybody on a baseline level how to use AI because they need to understand its limitations. They absolutely need to understand hallucination,
Oh yeah.
which for sure that doesn't know, that's essentially it's gleefully lying to you and very confidently so in order to accomplish the mission, which is get you to say that's a great answer.
It's just
That's
like a new college
reinforcement
grad.
learning. Yeah, that's reinforcement learning in a terrible nutshell.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but but getting everybody to a nice baseline, and only through actually using it on a regular. And I'm not saying it has to be ChatGPT. It could be Claude if you're more code heavy. It could be Perplexity if you need more real time results, or custom solutions like we build that are more in house and modular. Um, but getting them to use it, because once they start using it, they will, as long as they are using it, it takes a little time, just like any software or any process. They will start to see how they fit it into their workflow and how it really helps them. And I was just talking with a newer client last night. She said the same thing. Her son lives out in Seattle. He's a coder and he's relocating, but he told her 2 years ago, "Hey, mom, are you using ChatGPT yet at work?" And she's a sales manager. She said, "No." He said, "Give me your phone." He put it on her phone, said, "Start using it." And she started using it right away, and she's blown away. And she
Yep.
said her husband was a little slower on the uptake because he put it on his phone too. And she said he's starting to finally use it now because he's seen what I do with it to just save myself some of that mental capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I use it constantly. One of the things I use it most for, just like in a lazy sense, is I need to write an email back to somebody, and I'll just grab the two stacks of email and I'll throw it in there, and I'll say, "Hey, I want to respond to Sarah, and I want to set this date, and I want to make these points." And then rather than sit there and formulate the idea, it just cranks it out. But and I can tell it. I think it makes me lazy, much like using a calculator. Like I don't think we should do math in our head all the time because that's just a waste of resources. But similarly, occasionally you should pull out the math and just make sure you can still do it. Um, so as a lead in your organization, it's related to what you were talking about already, where if we keep innovating and we keep just chopping away, we'll end up with nothing at the bottom. Well, if we use AI for everything, we'll end up with nothing in the bottom. What is some good rules of thumb of how to train my employees, but also like watch out to make sure that they're not losing their edge?
You really have to take a value chain look at a process. I mean, and this is an intentional. There are. I mean, in practice, it's way more organic. People start using it. They start figuring out ways. They learn what doesn't go well. or they make a horrific mistake, like attorneys who are sending in briefs to judges that are just completely made up,
Mm.
which has happened 3 or 4 times. And or you learn by listening and hearing that going on in your industry. The way I would ideally do it is you take a process to say, okay, we want to tackle this first, and that's kind of a great rule of thumb when it comes to introducing automation and AI into your workflows. Is pick one, do it, test it, validate it, and then move forward. And you're going to build confidence as you go. Don't try to automate the most complicated thing. Take something simple. But you have to engage what's called human in the loop in a process where you have human validation on things, especially if you're in fintech or legal, healthcare, any if you're dealing with somebody's health, their money, or anything, you have to absolutely make sure that that human reviews those outputs and look at the things that, if a human is just, a perfect example is an accounts payable team that's in a big organization that's been doing the same thing for decades. They receive hundreds of emails a day, all with PDF invoices. They oftentimes they literally print it out, look at it, type stuff in, scan it again to put it in the other ERP system, type stuff into Excel, type stuff into CRM. That there are tons of opportunities throughout there, but of course, because you're dealing with money, there are also places where you must put human review in there.
Yeah. As an engineer, I used to lead a big engineering organization. Yeah, you have to check the hard numbers. Like,
Yeah.
when it comes to marketing, when it comes to writing something, sure. But definitely, yeah, you have to throw those. Actually, there's an interesting concept in manufacturing, which is you don't gain the value of the, like, so let's say we're making a car and we never check it. We don't check it for like 5 or 6 steps. You can't take credit for that value that you created until you check it at the 6th step to make sure that you did all the other ones right.
Yeah.
Then it becomes super expensive to check it all the time, because now that's a lot of interruption to your process. So how often should you touch it, boom, in order to make it work? Let me ask you, like, let me reframe here though. So you help companies make custom AI solutions so that their people can be more efficient,
Mhm.
right? What size companies do you help?
It's all over the map. I've worked with. I did this in corporate, so I automated some processes back in my corporate days also. So that touched hundreds and hundreds of employees. But now it's more small business, some area nonprofits, and then a couple of law firms, anywhere from 50 to 100 people. But I do have some clients that have 2 people, and we've just helped with some very simple automations, because like a voice answering system that's bilingual, for a roofer and his wife, that they are the business. And if
Yeah.
he's on a roof giving a quote, he cannot answer his phone. And when it comes to home services, 70% of the jobs go to the person that answers the phone first. That's just kind of industry wide, whether it's electrician, HVAC, plumbing. 70% of that work goes to the first person to answer the phone. Because if you don't answer it, they call the second result on Google. And if they answer it, they get the job. Because when your plumbing sucks, you need somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did fencing, and we just couldn't find a fencing person. And so after the effort to find one, we just took the first one. And as long as the price wasn't too terrible, we were like, yeah, okay, that works.
That's the majority of the time. So if you're
Yeah.
missing your phone calls, that's a major problem for you, especially as you're trying to grow.
Yeah. So let's get techie for a second. You brought up RAG models. I don't think the way AI is presented in today's society is you can get ChatGPT, Claude, or Perplexity. Maybe you can get like Canva or some other like something.ai. Your 10 velocity.ai. What's your
10x
website?
velocity, 10x velocity.ai.
10x velocity.ai. But you do something that's called a RAG model. So explain
Yeah.
to a RAG model and why that's not something that's really accessible to somebody that is not schooled in the art.
So RAG means retrieval augmented generation. And what it's doing is it's grounding your chat in documents or in a knowledge base. So think of ChatGPT, Claude, they are trained on the entire internet, essentially.
Right.
And now they are agentic to where if they don't have the answer in their training model, they will go out to the internet and find answers. All of them do it now. It was just Perplexity. What RAG does is it allows us to ground that chat into a knowledge base. So we build these custom solutions for law firms specifically. So it's enclosed, and it's they feed in PDFs into its own little distinct project, and they can talk to them. If you're familiar with Notebook LM, same idea. That's a Google product. For people who haven't used it, I encourage them to go use it. It's free. I believe if you have Google Workspace, you get a higher data limit. Yeah, but you can load in MP3s, videos, PDFs, Word docs, anything, and then chat with it. And you can turn off certain documents so that whatever you're talking to, that's all it is. It's grounded in that information. It will not go out and seek. It will not hallucinate. So that's why RAG is so powerful when we're building a custom solution for in-house. So if I'm building an SOP system for a wood manufacturer where they want to gather in all of that tribal knowledge that there are people who are aging out and retiring, we would build a RAG system, because if we just relied on ChatGPT, it's going to make up answers if it doesn't have the answer. That's hallucinating. We don't want to do that. So we want to, and there are modular ways to include web search if it makes sense, and we include multiple knowledge bases. So okay, perfect. And I don't want to get too in the weeds because eyes glaze over when I start doing this, but I love doing this stuff. Well, so we're building a product.
Okay. I think it needs a block diagram.
Yeah.
But no, I'm tracking. I think it's cool. All right. So I got a set of PDFs, and I'm like, hey, I just want to answer this way. That seems like it's really useful, because one of the problems with tribal knowledge, and the thing, like the big limiter, is that you're basically asking a senior member of your team to organize their thoughts into a miniature bestseller novel so that it's accessible. But with a RAG model, they can kind of just throw lines into a notepad, and then it can organize it.
My favorite way to actually do it is have them verbally record themselves throughout the process.
Yeah.
The brain to mouth doesn't allow you to self-censor. When you're typing, when you're writing, you are self-censoring the whole time because you're thinking of who's going to be reading this. Oh, I didn't mean that. I would much rather have one of those subject matter experts talk through everything. And I worked with a nonprofit here, and the CEO who founded it was getting ready to retire, and she was concerned about her legacy. She's done it for decades. And what does this organization do now that I'm retiring? And I said, have you just started verbally talking through why you started this, the big wins you've had over the 40 years you've been doing this?
Oh, wow.
Everything. And then use AI to help consolidate that into a knowledge base. So it's a living example of, hey, what would Nancy do here? And it'll tell you, because it's only going to talk to that knowledge base.
That's fantastic. I mean, like, that is a functionality that you definitely cannot get with Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT. You need somebody.
You could get close.
So how?
But not entirely.
All right. So here I am. I'm a service-based company, and I'm like, you know what? I think I could use some help. I don't want to hire somebody. Maybe AI is the answer. Do I need to sit there and think through what I need help with, or is it better to reach out to somebody like you and have some ideation with you?
Absolutely. I'm available. I do free 15-minute consultations, and I will almost in every instance provide definite value where you can go do this on your own. At least get started, whether it's talking through Notebook LM or how to use ChatGPT, or even change management with your team. If you happen to be in Kentucky area, I do a lot of workshops, conferences, things like that. I will be doing a workshop at the Kentucky Convergence Conference, which is higher education conference here in Louisville in November. And then with the Center for Nonprofit Excellence, we're doing a practical AI workshop for nonprofits here in September.
That's fantastic. Yeah, because nonprofits need the most help. They are strictly focused on doing good, and getting people to work there is hard. So yeah, augmenting their staff is a huge deal. Huge deal.
Yeah.
I've just thrown in the chat here for those watching the show, in the comments, there's a Calendly link here for a free 15-minute chat with Jay. So if you have any questions, maybe on just how to implement AI or what AI can do for you, I would reach out to him, or of course you can go to 10xvelocity.ai as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So that's what a RAG model is. What's your favorite part what's your favorite part? And then I'm going to ask you your favorite story. What's your favorite part of doing this work?
On honestly the unlock for people who never considered that they would even. A lot of people just look at this as like, oh, that's passed me by. You know, I saw it.
Mm.
I saw it when I was entering the workforce and with electronic mail and Google. I remember being at a trucking company and have you seen Google? Have you tried Google? You need to do Google. And it was like, nah, you know. And I just love showing people how easy it is to use and then helping them kind of get a little more confidence and seeing that unlock. We're like, oh wait, I can do this. I can just put this PDF in here and it's going to tell me all of the dates that are required for this. Yeah, do it. Just do it. You don't ask me. You're not going to hurt anything as long as there's no PII on there, personally identifiable information. Sorry, nerd.
Yeah.
But that's what I really. Yeah, I get super excited when people get excited because, oh wait, like I can actually get out of here at 4 o'clock every day now. Exactly.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is such an augmentation. The other thing is, and I had a friend that said this just this last weekend. He said AI is a huge augmenter, but what you can't underestimate is that because AI is a huge augmenter, you will reach out and grab a much harder task than you would have previously. So it's just like lifting weights. I have two high school boys, and so I have to lift weights so that I'm still stronger than them for the next 4 years. I gotta stay ahead.
I remember that.
Yeah. So when I have a spotter, I will try 5 to 10 pounds more than if I don't have a spotter, or a couple more reps. But like when it's just me in the garage working out, I do have like the safety rails, but like, I'll put the weight on there and I'll get 5 or 6 in. I'm like, my shoulder feels a little bit funny. No need to get hurt today, and I'll rack it. Whereas if I have a spotter, I'll be like, you know what? I have somebody that'll pick up the slack, and I'll put in 2 or 3 more reps. And so I'm doing more because I know I have this assistance. And AI, in so many ways, enables that. Because I know AI's got my back, I will try harder things. Have you seen folks trying harder things?
That might be a better analogy than I have ever used. That's amazing. That's really good because it speaks to the psychology of exactly what we're talking about. That's huge. Yeah, I've seen people just get unlocked and talk about, gosh, I used to spend 20 hours a week doing this, and now, boom. There's a director of strategy at a local nonprofit I've worked with quite a bit, and it hasn't been a professional relationship. We're just friends. We got connected, and we had coffee a few times, and I showed her some ways to use AI, and she just took off with it. And she has saved herself. She said herself, now I work 40 hours a week. I was working 55.
Yeah.
And that was a massive unlock for her because, with every, and I hate to even say with everything going on with nonprofits, with the yanking of funding for nonprofits.
Yeah.
For those people to actually maintain their sanity and still serve their clientele, that's a huge unlock. And that's just really exciting.
Yeah. I'm kind of, I have a couple of nonprofit friends, and actually I'm feeling convicted that I need to go sit them down and show them how to use it.
Yes. And there are concerns with AI, particularly with more creative focused nonprofits, because of the way it was trained, and which is horrible. And the environmental impact too. That's a conversation to have with everybody, and there are concerns there. And we could do that for another hour, honestly.
Is this the power drain? Is that what you're talking about with the environmental concerns?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the water usage, the power that's required. And somebody even asked me last night, and he's also in the field, and he said, how do you address those questions?
Yeah.
The way I view it, and there's no good view on it. But I think extremism doesn't help any conversation. You're just screaming at somebody on LinkedIn, and they're screaming at you, and you're getting nowhere. And hey, you're also burning up water on LinkedIn.
And then you're burning up water on LinkedIn.
Yeah, to scream into the void. The way I see it is this: the AI is an absolute juggernaut. It's got more funding than anything in the history of man. It's not going anywhere. Governments are fighting over it. It's not going anywhere. So you have to get engaged with it and use it. And if 100% of the people who are using it are tech bros who are only interested in unfettered capitalism, yes, the world will burn into a charcoal ember and fly into the sun. If 30,
100%.
40, 50% of the people using AI are using it to try and solve world issues, disease, hunger, water scarcity, human trafficking, if people are using it for those things, then I have to imagine that at some point the environmental impact is going to be much better than if everyone's using it to just take as much gold out of the vein as they can before we burn to a crisp.
Yeah. Yep. Well, actually, so I saw a picture. Have you ever seen a picture of the old school offices? I'm talking like 1930s, 1920s
I
offices.
worked in them.
Yeah.
I was there. I was in the picture.
Yeah, that's funny. My boys are all they're like, Dad, what was it like signing the Declaration of Independence? I'm like, I don't know, guys. That was after the Mayflower. I was Mayflower, buddy.
Hey, we go to a yard sale or something. There's an old school typewriter there, which I worked on in high school, and I'm like, hey, check this out. What are you doing?
Here's my all right. This is completely off topic. My favorite joke about millennials. So I'm 42. I was born in the earlier 80s, and I was recently told by another millennial. They're like, we're not really millennials. We're Oregon Trail millennials because we we didn't have a computer at home, but we had one at the computer lab, and we would go play Oregon Trail on the computer. So we're not really tech wasn't always a part of our life, but it was a huge part of our life. So we're not really millennials. We're Oregon Trail millennials. And I said to them, there's nothing more millennial than telling another millennial that I'm not actually a millennial. So,
when I was a kid, the only generation you knew existed was baby boomers because it was a constant news story. That we're not this generational warfare is a pretty ridiculous, like honestly, conjured up debate. Like, why are Gen X's like this? Like, nobody's like anything. Like, everybody's unique, people, and you can't pigeonhole people into groups.
That's crazy. That's funny. Okay, so on AI, I used to be an engineer. There was a time in my life when I was a smart person, right? Instead of just a voice on the show. My boss, so there was this moment in time in which we had computers that were strong enough to do really cool things, but not strong enough to do a lot of it. And so FEA analysis is whenever you see like a multicolored model. So it's like a 3D model of something and it's like being bent and then it changes colors when it's being bent. That's called FEA or finite element analysis. And the idea is you can make a 3D geometry and then you can put a mesh on it. And then you can do all the math that's appropriate for the stress calculations at this, like at this node and at this node, at this node. So then I can tell if something's warping or not.
Okay.
Well, you don't need that data. You don't need that high fidelity of a calculation on 90% of the part. We'll just take, we'll take this pin right here. Like maybe all I really care about is the stress that's happening on this edge. So I need to mesh that really tight. But the rest of this, like I already know the answer to, it's pretty simple. It's so simple. I can actually like kind of hand calc it. Just, I don't even need Excel. I can just do the hand calc. Anyway, so when you meshed a part out, it would take all night to run. So it was worth doing because it was all night. But it was also like, you had to really think about what should I spend my time on because it did also take all night. So my boss told me, he goes, you can mesh the design as hard as you want, but you only get 100,000 nodes and you owe me $1 for every extra node you put into the model.
Wow.
And so the idea was, hey man, don't just be wasting computer resources because you got a computer. Use your brain, think through it. And seriously, like 100,000 nodes, you could do that in an afternoon. So I could get 2 cycles of calculations done, or I could just be lazy and just mesh the whole thing super tight, but then it would take all night to run. So the question was efficiency of a calculation was kind of the joke. And I think that we're there with AI, and your RAG models are kind of talking about it. When I use AI, most of the time I don't need to go back to the oceans of data that exist I just need to go to my data set and ask and query data out of my data set. And I think that maybe if we start, I think that right now we're just like splashing and it's like, oh, look, we can do all of this stuff. But I think that as we start narrowing down and saying, I don't really need to think about all of that stuff. I just need to focus on this data funnel or, just this small column of data. I think that that's going to help the environmental impact of AI quite a bit.
Absolutely. And I think that you're not going to gain any efficiencies if you're just literally like ask ChatGPT every single thing throughout my day. You're just going to be playing around, honestly. And that's why when I show people Notebook LM and all of its capabilities with that, it has a really neat feature to create a podcast out of your documents. And anytime you see somebody mention Notebook LM on a podcast, that's the one thing they key on. Oh, and you can have this. Honestly, after the third or fourth of those generated podcasts you listen to, they're rather annoying. It's the same voices. They're very like, oh, and they say the same things. It's a toy. So when I build a local version, I don't put the podcasting thing in there because it's neat and it gets people interested in the tool, but it's not going to move you forward. And I'm really focused on operational efficiency. So I don't do a whole lot of AI for like generating video. I don't do any video generation, honestly. That's not my field. I think that's its own entire separate thing. I don't do image generation because I don't need it. I'm focused on workflows.
I love it. Well, we are running out of time here, so I'm going to give you the next 1-2 minutes. Floor is yours. What does my audience need to know about Jay and about getting in touch with you and about how to use AI more efficiently?
I want to use at least half of it to just congratulate you on an amazing onboarding experience for your podcast. Like if you run your own podcast or if you guest on podcasts, you need to go through Drew's video process to onboard. I have been on a dozen podcasts probably, and I've never experienced the onboarding that Drew does. It's amazing. And as someone who's looking to fire up my podcast again, if my partner gets available, I'm definitely going to steal every bit of it. Like, it was amazing. I was so impressed. Like, hats off. If you run a podcast, go get on Drew's podcast just so you can steal his workflow for doing onboarding, because it's mind blowing. It is.
Thanks, man.
I was absolutely blown away, and it really speaks to like the way I love to help people create SOPs in their business, because it just the comfort level for someone coming on your podcast, like you and I don't know each other before we do this, and I get so much more comfort hearing your voice for several minutes and you guiding me through how to make this the best experience possible. So I'm wasting all my time with effusive praise for Drew and the way he has structured his podcast, because honestly, anything I would say in these 2 minutes, we've covered in the last 40. Like, AI is going to help you unlock and augment and upskill and give your brain breathing room to make everything much more awesome. It is not a replacement for your people. It's not a replacement for you. And I'll say this at the end, just to throw a nice little thing out there. We're not even close to AGI.
Right.
And I have, and nobody even agrees on what it is or when we're going to see it. And the only people talking about it are the ones who still need billions in funding. Like, the actual engineers out there are like, no, we're not even close. Not even a little bit. So, let's set that fear aside for right now.
Yeah. Well, if I, first of all, thank you very much. If I can nudge the audience to think about AI when it comes to Jay's work, leadership is primarily about being a Tyrannosaurus Rex. In other words, you have little tiny hands and you can't reach anything. You can't do anything.
Analogies are awesome.
Right. So here you are, you have this huge voice, you have this huge mouth where you can tell people what to do, but you can't actually do anything yourself. And AI is an amazing tool that allows you to articulate your thoughts better, articulate the process better. But you need somebody that really thinks through the whole process. So Jay has been very modest here. My suggestion is, if you're in the nonprofit space, if you're in the services business space, and you're like, AI is something for those Fortune 500 companies. AI is not for the Fortune 500 companies. AI is for you, and you just need a guide that can help you get there. And Jay is the perfect guy to do that. His background is not making money with AI. It's always been about helping people create processes and then helping people increase value, not squeeze every little last drop out of that turnip. So
get with Jay. Amen.
Get with Jay. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Grab a 15-minute chat with him here with the link. And with that, we are out.